Hey guys, RedTech here with another video, and today, as you can see again, I am just doing a talk once again on Steve Jobs, the man that he is and the man that he was. Well, more was, but as you can see, no video again, just a background, same one as last time. Let's get straight into it. Steve Jobs had a tough life. He was rejected by his biological parents because they couldn't support him. He was rejected by the family of lawyers that adopted him in the first place after a month. Then he was adopted by some people that weren't Catholic, weren't college educated, didn't have very good jobs, and his mother refused to sign the release forms. She eventually signed them on the promise that he would go to college, but as we may well know, he dropped out of college to found Apple in 1976 with Steve Wozniak and Mike Markkula beside him. Now, Steve Wozniak did all the work, but Jobs was a visionary. If he saw something, no matter how many people he was told by that it was impossible, when they were creating the Apple II, he said, "I want a 40-watt power supply inside the machine." And the technician said, "It's impossible." Well, guess what? At $200 a day, that technician put a 40-watt power supply inside the machine that it was both silent and it didn't overheat. Ever. And so was the start of Apple. The Apple II paid the bills at Apple, or 70% of them, for quite a number of years. 7 years it paid the bills for. After the fail of the Apple Lisa and the Apple Macintosh, the original model, he was kicked out of Apple and he built a company called Next. Next created a $13,000 black box without an operating system. This caused Next to fail in the long run, and, well, Apple wanted Steve Jobs back, so they just went, "Here's $1 billion. Steve Jobs, please come back to Apple. Save our asses again." And so he did. But it took them 12 or so years for them to actually realize that. All this time, he was denying the fact that he had a daughter. But, when his partner at the time announced she was pregnant, he'd only just signed a $300,000 deal with Mike Markkula for the founding of Apple. So he wasn't ready. He wasn't prepared, and he didn't have the money. So he just denied it. But that same partner confronted him as he was about to launch the Next computer, as in Next, the brand, and said, "Your Apple stocks were worth $441 million, and he still refused to pay. After Lisa, his daughter, used the Mac, the original Mac, made a painting on it, did all of that, he said, "Well, I'll give you the money you need, buy a decent house near a school, decent school." And so they did. But Steve Jobs had health implications somewhere along the line. And we may be skipping ahead a bit here, but 2011, he resigned 1 month before his death in October. And the last product he launched was the iPad 2 in 2011 with iOS 6, I believe. And he'll always be remembered, but he was always a person that would see something, not necessarily be profitable, but he didn't care about the money or how much money people made. He cared about what they made. That's what counts. If you're just going to think about money, like stockholders and shareholders and stuff, you won't get very far. And even though Steve Jobs was not the person that designed, created, or did anything to those machines, he just I want this, and that's what he got. When the first iPod was released, he dropped it in a tank, or when it was first come up with, he dropped it into a tank of water. Air bubbles came out. And so, he said, there's room in there. Make it smaller. They said it was impossible. He threatened them. And they did it. With pressure, people can do the impossible. And if we've learnt anything from Steve Jobs, it's that our time on this earth is limited. And I can say this for any religion. This time on the earth is limited. To waste it would be to throw away God's greatest gift.